When you're insulin resistant, that is, you've got metabolic syndrome, pretty much every chemical in the body is not quite right. Some are up, some are down, few are actually at physiologically normal levels. Traditionally, the focus is on the big guns, sugar, insulin, and cholesterol. In this series, we take a look at some of the other players, who they are, what they're up to, and how they're part of the state of insulin resistance. In this episode, we take a look at zinc. Zinc is the second most abundant trace element in the human body after iron, and in metabolic syndrome, serum zinc levels may be marginally higher than normal initially, but they shift downward as your body chemistry deteriorates. Now, the fact that they are up is not a big surprise. When you are insulin resistant, the problem is not a shortage of insulin per se. The pancreas is churning out the stuff morning, noon, and night. Unfortunately, many cells are not responding appropriately to insulin. It's this lack of response that makes you insulin resistant. Now, zinc is involved in the synthesis, storage, and release of insulin. Zinc is secreted along with insulin from the secretory granules by beta cells. So when there's more insulin in the circulation, it follows that there will be more zinc in the circulation because insulin and zinc are secreted together. But the actual amount of zinc in the circulation is tiny. It's in the nanomolar range. The zinc that matters is the zinc inside cells, particularly the zinc levels in the cytoplasm. This means that serum zinc levels are not a good indicator of zinc status because the body makes sure they're always about the same. Shifts in this number only happen in serious circumstances, such as a low zinc diet. Now, we only need 2 to 3 milligrams of zinc per day, but since it's a bit tricky to get the zinc in, the recommended dietary allowance has been set at 10 milligrams per day. People eating little to no animal protein for an extended period of time are most likely to be zinc deficient. And zinc deficiency is very common in malnourished communities. Think starving kids. The other group of people who are prone to dietary zinc deficiency are vegetarians and vegans and people eating very high fiber diets. It's not that plants don't have zinc. They do. It's just that the zinc they have is hard to access because it's tightly bound to the plant. During infections, the levels of zinc are deliberately reduced in the serum, and the missing zinc is redistributed to tissues and immune cells as part of nutritional immunity. The body's thinking behind this is to enhance immune cell function and make it hard for the disease-causing organisms to get their hands on the zinc for their growth and replication. In diabetics, serum zinc levels are often lower. Now, this is a result of increased loss in the urine. It turns out that as sugar is lost, zinc goes with it. Now, the human body has around 2 to 3 grams of zinc, and it's found in all the tissues, but the pancreas and the bone have particularly high levels. A lot of the zinc is structural. Around 3,000 proteins have a zinc or two somewhere in them, but some of the zinc is functional. Over 300 enzymes use the zinc to do what they do, so do multiple transcription factors. But this is not the only reason why zinc is so important. It has a major regulatory role. Transient changes in zinc levels signal to cells. The levels are changed by a family of transporters which constantly move zinc around. There are the ZIPs, or the zinc ion transporters, which move zinc into the cytoplasm. Humans have 14 different types. And then there's the ZINTs, which are zinc transporters that move zinc out of the cytoplasm. Humans have 10 different versions. The zinc in the cytoplasm is kept safe by metallothionein proteins, which act as zinc buffers. humans have 4 different versions of this protein. And if a cell is challenged by a sudden influx of zinc ions, the free zinc ions will be shuttled onto the metallothionein, so the zinc levels return to normal. When the zinc levels rise, this activates the metal response element binding transcription factor, MTF1 for short, and this turns on genes that help cells deal with metal toxicity and oxidative stress. Plus, it triggers the production of more metallothionein. It turns out that this is the best indicator of your zinc status. But at this point in time, testing for this is not commercially available. Now, when the beta cells pump out insulin, it doesn't trickle out. It gets packaged into special secretory vesicles or granules, along with a bunch of other things. And the insulin is not actually good to go. The beta cells make proinsulin, which then gets cut up and into bits and glued back together in a maturation process. The zinc is involved in this as well as the packaging of insulin. The zinc gets moved into the secretory granules by the Zinc transporter, and lots of zinc is moved in. It's estimated that the concentration of the zinc in the secretory granule can reach somewhere between 20 and 30 millimolar. Mature insulin then teams up with the zinc and jumps into the hepatic portal vein. Now, the insulin that is made is a single insulin, and it's referred to as a monomer. But the insulin that ultimately is pushed out of the secretory granule is a hexamer. It's a conglomerate of 6 insulins held together by 2 zinc. Now, truth be told, insulin can make the leap without zinc, and sometimes it does. For example, guinea pigs don't have zinc accompany their insulin, and they do just fine. Actually, some humans don't have a working version of that Zinc transporter, and others have a not so good version, and they seem to do okay too. In fact, studies suggest they are protected from type 2 diabetes. Now, no one knows for sure why they are better off, but it is suspected that it has to do with what happens to amylin rather than what happens to insulin. But that's a story for another day. So, zinc in this context is not a must-have, it's a nice-to-have. And when all is said and done, insulin's impact is enhanced by the zinc. Zinc has been described as an insulin mimetic. Like insulin, it has a good side and a not so good side. Numerous studies have shown zinc supplements improve glycemic control, especially in people with diabetes. This odd-looking figure is a forest plot which summarizes the results of 36 different studies. The position of the dotted line relative to the solid line shows overall that zinc is helpful in improving fasting blood glucose levels, although not all studies reported benefits. But at the end of the day, zinc is both essential and toxic, and your body does have mechanisms to protect itself from too much zinc, but it can and does accumulate over time. Remember, you only need 2 to 3 milligrams a day, and the RDA is 10 milligrams, climbing a little higher in special risk groups like pregnant women. If you're eating an exclusively plant-based diet, you could potentially be short. Although it's important to realize in the Western world, many products are fortified with zinc, so even vegetarians probably are getting a little more than they might think. Now, the best way to get it is through your diet. Oysters are zinc bombs, but they're an acquired taste and pretty expensive. Red meat is the next best option, but it's found in most animal products. Supplements may sometimes be necessary, especially if your diet is genuinely low in zinc. But if you supplement wisely. You don't want to get supra-physiological levels for an extended period of time, which is what will happen if you routinely take a 50 milligram or 100 milligram tablet week in and week out. And you must watch your copper intake because zinc competes with copper for absorption. People who are insulin resistant often have a zinc dyshomeostasis. This is not due to a lack of zinc in the diet, but rather because of poor glycemic control. So it is important to supplement wisely. That high dose of zinc could be counterproductive in the long run. The number one priority should be to fix the underlying body chemistry. For some ideas of where to start, download the Willpower Report. It's free. Here is a list of some of the journals. Zinc is just one of hundreds of chemicals that are amiss if you're suffering from metabolic syndrome. Subscribe to our channel to learn more about some of the other players in our ups and downs of insulin resistance series. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.